Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining again on another PWA Studio Community Sync. We have some really good attendance today, some people that I haven't seen on the line here in a few months since I've been out, but good to see you all, and thanks for joining us today. We have a relatively light agenda today. We have a couple demos. There'll be quality demos, though, from the team. We'll talk a little bit about what's coming up in terms of activity on the team with the upcoming release. We won't get into the release notes today. We'll save that for next week. And it will really save time at the end here as we're starting off 2021 and we have all these amazing people on the line. If we'll save some time at the end to take some open questions, kind of open forum around what's going on with the team or PWA Studio, what you guys are doing in the community. If anybody has any questions, comments, or anything to add there, we'll save that at the end. So to start off today's demos, we have Andy, who's going to talk about some changes with Dialog.
Hey. Yeah, so I have I won't go too in depth. I'll leave the kind of PR description up here for you if you want to read all the nitty-gritty details. But I wanted to share that the dialog component, one of the should unmount on hide prop, the default value changed. So just kind of a general awareness plug here. Some of you may not know, some of you do. The dialog component has a form inside of it, and so when we hide the dialog component, it actually just kind of slides off screen. And so that form is still mounted. And the bug that this PR is solving is that you would enter values into that form, click submit, it would hide, and then you bring up the form again, and all those values are still populated in the form. So there's code you could write to get it to not do that, but we thought that the best kind of help everybody fall into a pit of success approach would be to change that default value. So that form is going to get, when the dialog is hidden, that form is going to get unmounted now. And so that the next time you bring it up, it'll be a fresh new form. This also fixes some, I won't call them bugs, but kind of quirks with initial values in the informed library that we're using. So again, out of the box, it should work now after this PR as you would expect, as opposed to needing to know kind of the finer details of how the dialogue and how informed initial values work and all that stuff. So so there was a change in the default value for that prop in the dialog component, and also in our Venia storefront, every instance that was using the dialog component, we kind of had to make sure that it was correctly expecting the value, so we had to switch some of the values around. So you may have to do that too if after this update goes out. This is not included in 9.0, but just a heads up that default value changed for the should unmount on hide prop in the dialog component. So if you're relying on the default value, that'll switch up on you. The easiest thing to do is just kind of explicitly say yes or true or false for that value now. But that's it.
Any questions for Andy?
Thanks, Scott. I saw you clapping.
Okay. The mini clap for Andy. All right, awesome. Thanks, Andy. So next up we have Tommy.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Hello, everybody. A little crazy seeing like this entire board of blue people. We actually have people at Community Sync. This is awesome. So today I'm going to be talking about something that's kind of become a passion, performance. We're a PWA. We need to have a kind of heartbeat on, or a pulse on performance. So today I'm going to talk about render blocking and kind of how to detect it, how to fix it in your own app, and maybe just kind of open a conversation to kind of discuss some patterns that we currently use in PWA Studio and kind of why you should consider using those patterns so your kind of storefront looks as performant as it really is, and you're not just sitting behind big loading spinners waiting for something to happen. So I am on develop right now. I'm going to show you kind of the render blocking component that I kind of only found one big one. It was at the very top of the tree, and that's kind of the biggest no-no is like you don't want to prevent your entire app from rendering based on one query. We have another glaring one, probably everyone already knows about it, that we have to do URL resolvers for every page that we hit, but I'm not going to approach that one just yet. But anyways, if you ever are concerned about performance, Lighthouse is kind of Google's go-to metric for telling you kind of how you're doing. We have some known problems on here, so the score isn't going to be perfect, but it should, be in the lower 80s. So this is fine. These are all great metrics, but to kind of look into render blocking, you want to go into kind of this request tree. And when you see stuff like this, where it looks like there's a bunch of queries waiting on something else to fire, you probably got a problem. So we've identified here that this probably whatever is firing this get locale query is preventing the rest of the app from rendering. We probably don't want to do that. So, and then I'll quickly show that we've fixed it. And if we go back and look at that trace again, it took about half a second. So if we fix this, maybe we should get a half a second improvement. So let's go over to, I have a PR instance that's doing the same thing. I'm always mindful to clear all my cache, so my results, it warns you there that you don't want your cache to kind of accidentally affect your results. All right, so we'll run this again. And with network latency, you're never going to get like consistent results. So hopefully this, oh geez. Not the best improvement. I'm going to chalk that up to network latency, but we'll still go look at the trace, and we can see in the request flow that now we no longer have this render blocking. So you see, we don't have kind of these queries next to each other. You're going to see that kind of they all queued up at the same time. So you'll see now get locale is firing, and all those other queries that were waiting for it to return now fire immediately. So I'm just going to talk about that pattern and how this was fixed. So we did some things to add default locale as a Webpack global. So default locale is just something you can pull out of the store config. So we do a query at build time to grab store config, so we know what the default locale is. That means we can immediately render the app with that value. And then just to be cautious, I'm going to bump this up a lot more. I think I've seen in some recordings that that's pretty tiny. So just in case that kind of value at build time, like somebody may have gone into the admin and changed the default locale, we can still go ahead and true up with the network. So what we still go ahead and fire that query, but now we're saying while this query is in flight, go ahead and use this default locale global that I got at build time. And this is the big bad piece here. If you ever have something like this in your app, it means that it's render blocking, saying that until my data comes back, I'm not rendering anything. And it's probably not the behavior that you want. So there's going to be big talks about kind of app skeletons for like the next year, because that's going to be something that we want to do. We don't want a big loading spinner in the user's face or in the shopper's face while they're waiting for this data to come back. We should be rendering some sort of shape that might resemble the data we expect to get back. It's a great psychological thing that makes them feel like the page is snappier and faster, even if it takes the exact same time. So keep an eye out for patterns like this. If loading, show a loading indicator. Otherwise, render this provider. And this is what provides all our translation strings. And that's why it's at the very top of the app. So what this was doing before was saying, don't render the rest of my app until this network request comes back, which is what you do not want. So now we have solved that by querying default locale at build time. We still go ahead and check with the network to see if that value is still accurate. If it is, React does nothing. React does uh, a diff of that value and doesn't re-render the rest of the app. If the value comes back and the locale is different, it does a re-render, but at least you got that immediate render, and then they might see like a little flash of like some translated strings. But it's kind of you have to decide, weighing the pros and cons of immediately rendering versus some sort of flash of temporary placeholder content. So that is render blocking at a high level. We've investigated the rest of the app, and I found like a few areas, kind of in this view specifically. There's something about like filter modals being validated. So there's like 3 big queries that have to fire before this page is rendered. But you'll still see that like a lot of our performance is still in the decent. I already refreshed, but it is in a decent range. And now we're kind of nitpicking, trying to get our way up to that perfect 100. Like we want, those sub 500 millisecond load times to give you like instant feedback. That's all I have. Any questions?
Yeah, it looks like there was a question in chat from Sir Rob Ender. He asked, can we do that with some browser language detection?
Yeah, so that's I think I'd need the I18N Owls team that implemented this to maybe provide some context into why we didn't just trust the browser. We kind of trust the store config over whatever the user has configured in their OS that gets bubbled up to the browser. I'm kind of on the fence there. Like, I think we should just trust what the browser says they want to see and then render that language. But, we're stuck between that. Do we want to do what the merchant wants versus do we want to do what the shopper wants? So it's kind of a balance there that we have to decide between. And right now we side with the storefront. The storefront decides the locale that gets rendered. But you easily could just grab locale from Navigator, available locales or default locale. I'd have to look it up. And then pass that to the React I18N provider, and you're off to the races. You just want to make sure that you'd have language packs for, the entire world, I guess. But yeah, on the off chance you don't have a language pack, they just see whatever your default is.
All the languages. Any other questions for Tommy? Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks, Tommy. Give a round of applause. Curse of the live demo strikes it again, but we'll figure that one out someday. Okay, well, in terms of demos, that was it for us today. Quickly, just on what's coming up with our
Andrew,
release.
Sure. Sorry, I was going to miss the meeting, so I didn't put up my name. I can go over the React 17 upgrade just quickly.
We love more demos that pop up, so feel free, Ravon.
Okay, hold on, I'm going to share this. Hey everyone, I hope you can see the screen. I'm sharing the React 17 upgrade PR. We worked on this as part of the Lighthouse improvements that Tommy mentioned earlier. So this is one of the PRs. In this PR, we are looking at upgrading React and also upgrading Informed. It's the package that we use internally to render forms and take care of contexts for forms. We had to upgrade Informed because React, it needs the newer version of React. The PR is pretty simple. It's just an upgrade, and most of the file changes that you're seeing are like test changes because the paths have changed for a couple of them, and then for some of them, Inform has changed its API. So It's not a breaking change though. It's just that our snapshot tests were failing, so we had to upgrade everything. And most of the 45,000 lines of change that you're seeing are like the YARN log changes and the snapshot changes. PR is pretty simple. It's straightforward, and if anyone has any questions, you can drop here or on the PR anytime.
Quick
Not a
question,
breaking
Ravant.
change.
Yeah. I was going to bring up breaking changes. Have you run into anything in our code base that required any changes to support React 17, or has it been pretty backwards compatible?
It has been backwards compatible. No, nothing has changed. The tests have failed, but not because of React changes. It's because of the way Informed renders IDs. I don't know why they have changed it in the new version, but it shouldn't break anything from the UI perspective. Why we actually labeled it as a minor version instead of a major, even though it's a major upgrade to React.
Great. Thanks, Ravant. Any questions for Ravant on the React upgrade?
Let's take that as a no.
Quick and easy. All right. Thanks, Ravant. There you go. Round of applause for you too. We give them to everyone.
Yeah.
It's like the blue ribbon of demos, the round of applause. That's just I don't know. I don't know what tangent I'm on right now. Anyway, moving on. So back to the previous point on upcoming release for 9.0. We're still, the timeline is still the same as we talked about last week, right? We're still targeting on or around, I believe, February 9th. They give us some wiggle room there, but I think that should be the planned date. Everything is moving ahead and moving according to plan on the release. I think as we finalize or have already finalized the majority of it. We'll cover the release notes next week, but there's some really big changes, big features coming that I think we're really excited about, not only in terms of improvements to the extensibility framework, the international and localization work that the team has been doing, my account features that are coming out, and I think there's a bunch of other goodies in there, of course, but those are some of the major highlights. So we'll go through some of those in depth a little bit next week, talk through the release notes, and then everyone will obviously, as we get closer, be able to have access to those changes. Well, you could see them today on Develop, right? A lot of those features. So if you have any questions about the release, feel free to let us know in the chat or reach out to us on community. I see there's some already, and Andy, thanks for taking those questions in chat. I guess from here we'll take a pause on our side. I think we're good on our agenda, but since we have such a great audience here today, if there are any questions about PWA Studio, what the team's been working on, what's coming up, feel free to jump in either the chat or chime in here, and we're happy to take kind of open questions. All right. No one wants to sing Andy's praises,
Oh my.
I don't know why I threw you under the bus there, Andy. It's only because your
Yeah,
camera's on and the rest of the team doesn't have their camera on. That's why.
no worries. Yeah, I answered some questions in chat. I don't know, maybe I should say them out loud just so everybody can hear.
Yeah, that's
We
fair.
are trying to, so Christopher asked their plans to release independently of the core releases. Yes, we're trying to do that. We have to coordinate with some other kind of internal stakeholders and all that and support and things. So we're definitely pushing for that. But I don't want to make any promises just yet, but we are trying.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it has certainly been a goal that we've had on the project, and Chris, you know this because you've been around long enough. It's been a goal that we've had for a while now, and we're making steps. So we're going to keep pushing that direction to have the independent releases for sure. What else? Any other questions? All right,
Lots of new
awesome.
folks
Well,
today. You might want to
yeah.
tell them that when this is scheduled, so they can come
This
next time.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So hey, for everyone that's new or anybody that's watching the recording later on YouTube, because we still do that. This call happens every Wednesday, this same time, 10 o'clock. A quick meeting. We obviously demo what we're working on as a team, but we also welcome anybody in the community to demo anything that they're working on. Some of the more exciting, not that anything that we do isn't exciting, but some of the more exciting demos are actually seeing what the community members are doing with PWA Studio and some of the projects there. We love to see it. So if you have anything that you want to demo, you can always reach out to us on the community Slack, and we can get you scheduled in. But every Wednesday, 10 o'clock, U.S. Central Time, standing meeting. So thanks, Andy. Good call out. Well, if there are no other questions, thanks everybody for joining today. We'll be back at it again next week. Again, we do record these and throw them up on YouTube if you want to gain access to any of this information later. And in the meantime, we will see you all next week. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.